Hey there, movie lovers. It's the Recapped Man again, and I'm going to explain the 2024 thriller movie named Warriors of the Future. Spoilers alert. In the future, after the rapid development of humans' technological civilization, countries starts to compete with each other for the hegemony of the Earth. Since military robots have replaced soldiers, years of uninterrupted wars are frequent in all regions, and robotic proxy warfare has now become the norm. But this leads to natural disasters, industrial overdevelopment, and global warming. The air is filled with high levels of toxins, to an extent that many children are born with serious disease. In order for humans to survive, the government all over world started creating canopies under the sky called skynets. These canopies help purify the air beneath so that humans can survive under it. But during the construction of the skynets, a giant meteorite landed in Sector B16. Out of the meteorite, a giant alien plant emerged. Anytime it encountered water, it begins to grow, rapidly destroying anything around it. But ironically, the plant can eventually help to purify the air of toxins. It's like a natural air purifier, so scientists named it Pandora. Pandora's growth rate is directly proportional to the amount of precipitation or rainfall. So the city around it was overrun by the alien plant, destroying properties and life. To deal with Pandora, the headquarters sent Colonel Lucy and two battle droids, R6 and V1, to Sector B16. According to the weather observation, Sector B16 will receive 2 rainfall. The first rainfall will cover the main city, and the second rainfall will cover the whole area of B16. If this happens, the rapid growth of Pandora will cause the death of the whole 5.6 million residents of Sector B16. So the headquarters has come up with 2 plans. One is to inject Pandora with a genetic potion named the P9 virus. This virus will eventually stop Pandora's growth, but it will still allow it to purify the air. If this happens, there will be no need for the skynets anymore, as Pandora will still be able to produce just enough chemicals to cure the whole Earth. Meanwhile, on the second hand, if Plan A fails the headquarters' plans on bombing Pandora, but this explosion will cover over 14 kilometers and would kill over 160,000 people. To avoid panic, no evacuation plan was created, and all plans were kept secret from the public. General Gowon, who is responsible for the building of the skynets, is skeptical about Plan A as he has put his whole life into the building of the skynets. He says that if Operation A fails, Plan B will be launched immediately, and giant bombers will be sent to bomb Pandora and the 14 kilometers it covers. Zach's air combat unit is in charge of the first operation. Although it is suicidal, they have no option but to comply with higher authorities. The operation is divided into 4 steps. Firstly, Zach's air team with our protagonist Dave is to approach Pandora. Secondly, they're to spray a gas that will allow them to track Pandora's heart, which is called the Matrix. Thirdly, after finding the Matrix, with the help of R6 and V1, they're to dig a hole to the Matrix and inject it with the genetic bullet. And this should stop the rapid growth of Pandora. After the mission is deployed, Dave's air unit was the first to move. But on arriving in the airspace, a lot of clouds has already started gathering in the sky, and rain begins to fall. This causes Pandora to grow rapidly. The air units, awaiting Lucy orders, are already in position, ready for the launch of shadow gas bombs. So Lucy commands the begin of the operation as they launched the bombs. Pandora cannibal flower begins to absorb water, and while doing this, it also absorbs the shadow gas and takes it to the mother body for rendezvous. By doing this, the plants releases gas that allows the air units to track the Matrix. Dave's helicopter is fast tracking, but Pandora's tentacles, after absorbing water, begins to attack. It destroys the first helicopter, hereby causing an explosion. Then the tentacles pierces through the glass of the second helicopter and begins to feast on all the humans on board. Eventually, this caused the helicopter to crash, hereby leaving only Dave aircraft to finish the mission. Unfortunately, the tentacles attacked, but luckily enough, only the fuel tank was penetrated. The cadets on the ship then begins to launch fire on the tentacles, but the plane was already crashing. Luckily enough, Dave's flying skills helped them escape. On reaching air levels, they finally locate the matrix of Pandora, but it is way beneath ground level for Dave's team to reach, so Commander Lucy orders the release of droids. The robots V1 and R6 were then released from the giant transport plane, and they're now responsible for injecting the genetic bullets at Pandora Matrix. At that moment, Gowon secretly jammed the signal and took control of V1 and R6. Suddenly, Lucy lost contact with both Dave, the transport plane, R6, and V1. Also, Gowon used the robot inside the transporter plane to use bombs to blow up the plane. It all came so suddenly that everyone is nowhere to be found. Dave contacted the command several times, but the signal was already jammed. There was no way to get further instructions. The fuel level also began to alarm, and then the helicopter crashed down. Dave, who is in a coma, gets a flashback of his deceased daughter giving him a chain. Suddenly, he wakes up and takes the chain. At this time, the plane is about to explode, so he gets up to check on his teammates. Corner is alive, but one of the teammates is injured, so they go to an hospital nearby to look for first aid. It's now 3 hours before the main rainstorm, so Lucy plans on commencing Plan B, which is to bomb the main city. But Zack requested to go to the Matrix building in person to save his brother's Dave. On going to Pandora, he meets an ex-member of his troop in the city named Miguel. He asks him for his help, but he is quiet, so Zack promises him the truck and many more things. But Miguel still refuses, so Zack gets in his truck and brings Miguel's former gun. On giving him this, he gets emotional and agrees to join. Dave, on reaching the hospital, tells Corner to wait with the injured troop. OH can go find some things he can use for first aid. But as he goes, he comes to discover an unknown monster that tries to attack him, but he kills it. It turns out that Pandora is not only a plant, it carries an alien life form in it, and the monster it hatched are hiding in the hospital. Corner, on hearing noise, goes to check it out, but suddenly the monsters attacked and eat the wounded troop. This causes him to freak out and run. The monsters attacked him, but luckily enough, he ran and hid in a coffin. By this time, Dave returned. The wounded team member have already been eaten. As he tries to look for Corner, the monsters attacks him again. But luckily, as he's about to be eaten, Zack arrives and saves his life. Afterwards, Zack and Dave reunites with Corner in the hospital and continue to complete the rest of the mission. Dave handed the flash drive to Corner, asking him to send the Matrix scan data to the command center. Immediately, the doctor got the morphological data of Pandora. But this only made Gowon angry, since the command has lost control over the V1 and R6. They had to retrieve the genetic bullets at the exact place where the transport plane crashed. Miguel is responsible for driving the car. Corner is responsible for tracking the genetic bullet signals for navigation. Zack is in constant contact with the command, while Dave is wearing a tailor-made mech suit, ready to fight. On approaching the crash site of the transport plane, they send drones to enter first to look for the genetic bullet. Zack and Corner then enters the crash site, which is an unstable building, to look for the genetic bullets. Finally, after a long search, they found the genetic bullet box, but it was 20 meters above the rubble, and it was in a scrap car. The car cannot carry the weight, and once dropped, the bullet's casing would shatter, so Zack goes after it. And D, with the help of his mechanized suite, the task becomes easier for him, but with all the stunts that he has to do to get to the bullet, his armor eventually loses battery, so Dave comes to his rescue. Together, the two men picked the genetic bullet up by pulling on a rope. Just after getting the bullets, monsters begin to attack them, so they quickly get into the mech combat mode. But being held back by dozens of monsters and the fact that the house is about to crumble, they were ready to retreat. But Corner is still underground. He found the head of a robot, so he carried it on, hoping to find the source of the jamming signal. At that moment, Miguel arrived with a lightning gun and quickly helped them blast their way out of the crumbling house. On reaching the car, Corner's analysis of the robot's head information makes him find out that the plane crash was caused by Gowon. Zack, on learning about this, calls Gowon to tell him he knows about his plan. But Gowon simply commands V1 remotely to execute the team. Soon V1 arrived. Miguel tried to escape using high speed, but it doesn't work. Zack throws bombs, but they doesn't seem to damage it at all. V1 then sends out tracking missiles to them, but the armored vehicles intercepted it with decoy bombs. Just then, a humanoid robot descends from the sky. It enters the vehicle and begins to fight Dave in close quarters. The humanoid robot's AI combat skills are deadly, but Dave wields a sharp blade and fights it. Finally, he manages to chop off its head to finish it. At that moment, V1 suddenly came back. It blew the bridge and the armored car almost crashed, but as they try to move further, V1 came out of nowhere to drag it into the crumbles.
By the way, if you are enjoying this, please don't forget to subscribe.
The armored car could not move forward, so Zack, on seeing this, hands the genetic bullet to Dave and tells him to finish the mission. He then jumps, holds V1 shooting system, and drags it to shoot. The V1 hands off the armor car. This eventually helps his teammates to survive, but he falls with the V1 robot and dies. At this time, dark clouds have already started gathering in the sky again, and the next rainfall will be in 15 minutes. Luckily, the team has reached the Matrix, but they've lost contact with the command, so Lucy orders the begin of Plan B. Back to Zack. They're planning on digging a hole to the Matrix. But at this moment, Gowon activates the R6, and few moments after, the R6 appears with weapons. It begins to fire a non-stop machine gun. So Dave tells Corner to try and dig the hole while him and Miguel distract R6. But R6 is also equipped with electromagnetic cannon, so Dave dodges deftly and jumps to the top of R6, where he finally disconnects the connection jammer. By doing this, he reconnects with the command and tells Lucy about everything. So Lucy goes to confront Gowon personally. But Gowon won't just admit defeat. Miguel took advantage of R6 crossing the flyover to blow it up with a cannon. This caused the bridge to crumble, hereby trapping R6. Then Miguel attacked it with parachute shells, causing a violent explosion, hereby destroying the R6. At this same time, the sky was already raining heavily, and Pandora began to grow again. The bombers were already in the sky, waiting for the final order from Lucy. They did not expect that Zack was not dead. He took the last genetic bullet to Pandora's lair. There. He found a large number of insect eggs there. It turns out that even if the air is purified, Pandora's hatching monsters will still take over the Earth. So Zack threw the genetic bullets, and in an instant, the virus spread inside the Matrix. The monsters infected with the virus were instantly killed by it, and Pandora's body stopped growing, but is still able to purify the air. Gowon, on witnessing this, couldn't stand the shame and took his life. Afterwards, the Earth ushered in a new life, and at the end of the film, the team received a new mission to fly to the moon, an unknown battle that's about to take place.
Subscribe for more.